emotional eating. So this is a topic that we've all experienced. So whether we still experience emotional eating now or whether we've experienced it in the past, we can all relate to it. And it also helps us to refresh our memory into what causes us to emotionally eat. So what is an emotional eater? So emotionally eating is when people use food as a way to deal with feelings instead to satisfy their hunger. So they eat food to cope with difficult emotions because emotional eating has nothing to do with hunger at all. You're not eating because you're hungry. It's obviously because you're trying to get rid of an emotion. We know that it is temporary and it's not going to fix the problem, but at the time, it's just something that you want to do at that moment. And then obviously we end up consuming more calories than the body will actually use, which results in weight gain. So when you're on a diet, you already know that you're trying to stay within your calories. When you're emotionally eating, you have no understanding of how much calories you're consuming in that moment. You're just happy that you're eating. So this is what we want to really try to eliminate from our program, our phase, our diet, so that we can obviously continue to lose fat accordingly, but also it's going to help us in the long run when obstacles do arise in the future. So playing this video, I want you to put in the chat box what different emotions you think this lady is experiencing. I'll play it again if you've missed any. So the chat box is to the right of you on your Zoom link. I'm going to play it again, and I just want you to put in the chat box what different emotions you think she's experiencing. Okay, so we can see that there are different emotions going through her brain at this moment. So it starts off with there's a little bit of anger or upset when she's eating this chocolate, whether it's I really don't want to eat this chocolate, or whether she's thinking about the reason that's making her eat the chocolate the way she's eating it. So you can see that it starts with a bit of anger or frustration or upset. But then what starts to happen after that, there's a little bit of a smile. So it could just be, oh, I've just now recognized the taste, tastes good. Or it could be, I now feel a bit happier that I've done that to myself, because emotional eating has a connection with the same impact as somebody who self-harms. It's that I want to harm myself, but it's going to make me feel better. But then I know I'm going to feel bad afterwards. So she's got these different emotions going on. So if you don't know how to use the chat box, then you just click onto the right of your Zoom and then it will open up. You can also just write down on paper what different emotions you think she experienced. Let's look at the cycle then, because with emotional eating, you go through a cycle all the time. So something happens that upsets you. What results in that? Well, you feel an overwhelm or an urge to eat. So something happens that upsets you, and then you want to eat. You eat more than you know that you should be eating, and then what happens? You feel guilty and powerless over the fact that you've consumed this food. So can you just put in the chat box if you've ever experienced this emotional eating cycle? Yep. Yep, many times. Yep, we've all experienced it. But the fact that it's a cycle means that it actually has no end. There isn't an end. It goes from something happens that upsets you back to something happens that upsets you. So this actually tells us that in life, there is always going to be upset. Life is never going to run smoothly. Your whole day is never going to be a perfect day. So if we continue the cycle of having this overwhelming urge to eat something when something upsets us, eating more than we should, and then feeling guilty, doesn't that mean that our whole life will be consumed by emotionally eating? If we don't fix the habit, this is what our cycle will continue to be, because nothing in life goes perfectly. There is never a day where you can go, that whole day was a perfect day. You can say that I handled today perfectly because you didn't allow the upset to make you fall or fail. So you can say, I handled today perfectly and the day went well because I handled it perfectly, but the whole day wasn't a perfect day because things happen in life. So we want to get out of this emotionally eating cycle. So let's look at the next side. Are you an emotional eater? And that doesn't mean, have you been an emotional eater? I'm talking about today, right now. Are you an emotional eater? So emotional eating is using food to make yourself feel better, to fill emotional needs rather than your stomach. So today, in this day and age, are you an emotional eater? Can you put that in the chat box for me, please? And it's not something to be ashamed about. It's just something that I can help you work on over the time that I'm coaching you. So yes, we've got for sure, yes, yes. Okay, so it's good to know, because obviously I will always go through your food plan. And as you know from my feedback, I will see things on your food plan that I may say, could we have something different? But is there something behind why you chose that? There could just be, oh, it was my treat day, so that's fine, because I don't know what's behind the choice or the reason why you chose that biscuit, that slice of cake, whatever it is that you had. I don't know the reason behind it, but I just know that I'm looking at your food plan to ask you, can you have a different option? If there was something behind that, the reason why you went for that biscuit, then we need to start looking at, what are your triggers? How can we handle those? How can we correct them? And how can we make you look at other ways? And even if it means that you still have to have something to eat when you feel triggered, let's look at different food choices that you can go with. And then afterwards, it says, not only does the original emotion remain, the issue does not go. So you can see this girl here on the sofa eating a plate of marshmallows and probably some macarons or whatever it is that she's eating. But with that plate of food, if she was hungry, she would look more excited. She doesn't even look like she's hungry to eat this plate of food. She's obviously upset with whatever the issue is, but the plate of food isn't making her feel any happier. It's not getting rid of the issue. So now what's happening is she's going to start to overconsume the amount of calories she should be having today. What's that going to result in? Weight gain, fat gain, then her feeling guilty tomorrow about what she did yesterday. And rather than start afresh, guess what? The week's ruined. That's what her head is telling her. So today's Thursday. Thursday's gone to pot. Rather than think about what you did Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, you're now going to ruin Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, because you're now in this frame of mind where you're so upset and angry with what you've done in that moment that you're now going to ruin the next 72 hours. Can you just put in the chat box if you've ever done this? In the middle of the week, you've ruined that day or just that meal, and you've gone on to have that same pattern for the rest of the week, and you're going to start fresh on Monday. Anybody done that? Yes. And it's sad, really, because it is like an illness. Emotional eating is like an illness. So it's sad because people don't seem to understand, who don't have emotional eating, why people do it and why they consistently do it. But it is an illness, but it's something that we can obviously correct. If you had the flu, you'd either get some rest and let it take its course and go away itself, or you'd have medication. But you're not just going to live with the flu. You don't have to live with emotional eating. It's just understanding how we can get rid of it. And then you need to identify your behaviors. So there's different reasons and different behaviors why people emotionally eat. So one of them, you eat more when you feel stressed. So some people eat less when they feel stressed, and that's why some people lose weight who suffer with anxiety. But because we're talking about emotional eating, we're talking about people who eat more. So would you say when you feel stressed, you eat more? If you don't eat more when you're stressed, then don't put yes. But if you do eat more when you're stressed, put yes. Definitely, we've got a yes, yes. Okay. Do you eat when you're not hungry or when you're full? There is a difference. You can eat when you're just content, but you don't really need to eat, but you're content and you still eat. Or you can actually eat when you're absolutely stuffed, but you're still going to have one more. I'm full, but I'm still going to have one more. Anybody do that? So, yeah, Sarah said she eats even if she's content. Yep. Or if you're absolutely full, you think, yeah, I've got room for more. You haven't, because you're full and you know you're full, but you're going to do it. You're going to do it anyway. Do you eat to feel better, to calm and soothe yourself when you're sad, mad, bored, or anxious? So put whichever reason you feel the need to eat. Is it boredom, anxiety, sadness? When you're stressed, is it all of them? So we've got sad. See, now this is actually, so somebody, I'm not going to put names, but somebody has put, I treat myself when I'm sad. This again is another emotional behavior, because you're thinking that you're treating yourself. So you're sad, so you're going to treat yourself. But at the end of the treat, what is your emotion? So the person that put that, at the end of your treat, do you feel happier? Because you said, I'm going to treat myself when I'm sad. Do you feel happier when you've done it? No. She put no. So you can't look at it as a treat. That's where we've got, yesterday I had a conversation with one of my clients, and I said to her, I have now got to a point where I never have to emotionally eat, because I've already understood the consequence of something before I do it. And that's obviously from years of coaching. If you knew how much I deal with in my day-to-day life, I feel that I would have the reason to go for the biscuit tin, but I don't, because I already understand the consequence. Now, with emotional eating, what tends to happen is you haven't thought of the consequence. You're thinking of the now, which is, I'm going to treat myself because I feel sad, but you're not really thinking about, in half an hour's time, how am I going to feel about this treat? I'm going to feel sad. So it's learning how we put that thought before putting the biscuit or the cake in our mouth. That's what we need to do. So the reason why you're writing these things down is because when you write it down, it reinforces in your mind now, from today, what is going to be the consequence when I have this? And then it's going to help you to start to go, do you know what? I know how I'm going to feel after this. So what's the point? It's so different if it's your treat day. If it's your treat day, you're supposed to eat these things and feel happy about doing it. But right now we're talking about you sabotaging your results on purpose because you're eating because of an emotion. Do you reward yourself with food? Now, I have clients that get so close to their goal. I'm talking 10 pounds away from their goal. This isn't because their goal was a stone. I'm talking about you've got 4 stone to lose. You're 10 pounds away from your goal. What starts to happen? oh, I can have a bit of that, I've lost all of this weight. I haven't got far to go. I'm going to treat myself. But these treats become very consistent. Have you ever got to a point where you now start to feel confident and you're now realizing you're picking a little bit more than you was when you wasn't happy with your weight? Put that in the chat box. Have you ever started to pick a bit more on the wrong foods when you're closer to your goal? Yes. And what happens? You never, ever reach the goal. You've stopped too early. There's nothing wrong with maintenance. A maintenance diet is somebody who can get away with more treats than necessary because they're on maintenance. They're not even looking to lose any more fat. But what happens when you get close to your goal? Your brain is starting to tell you, you look good, you're in maintenance, you're all right. But really, there's still a few more to go, but you've started to reward yourself too early. Do you regularly eat until you've stuffed yourself? Are you somebody that makes your dinner and you eat till you're content, or do you regularly eat until that full feeling? There's always that one day of the week where you probably overeat, but does it happen on a regular basis? These are things that you can put on paper just to ask yourself. Does food make you feel safe? Do you feel food is a friend? At the time of eating it, maybe. Depending on what food you have. So obviously, if your diet is very balanced and you do eat a lot of good foods and you only treat yourself in small quantities, then you may look at food as safe. But now I'm talking about when food is consumed and it's not the right food. Do you look at it as, my friend, I'm going to go to the supermarket today to go and get my dinner, but I know in that basket, there's going to be some sweets because I want the sweets. I enjoy sweets. This is the mindset that people have who emotionally eat. They're actually more excited to go and put the bad food in the basket than they are their actual dinner. If that's you, then you've got to start thinking, what's my relationship with food like? Am I more excited for the bad things that's going in the basket that I'm going to feel guilty for after? Or am I more excited to go and get the nutritious foods? That's a question you've got to ask yourself. Do you feel powerless or out of control around food? Are you out of control? If you're out of control, this is something that needs addressing, because on this slide, we're talking about how our emotional eating affects others. And obviously, I'm talking about the people that live in our house, children, husband, wives, whatever. The person that sees you do things from a young age is most likely going to learn that behavior. So here we see that research suggests children who turn to food when they're feeling stressed or upset have learned this behavior, not inherited it, it's learned. So yes, genetically, a child can get this or that from a parent, but behaviors are learned. So children will sponge off whatever you say or whatever you do. So if they see mommy sitting down with a blanket, watching TV with a bag of cookies because something's upset her today, they think, oh, when I'm upset, I need to have sweets or cake or this or that, because that's what mommy does. And mommy is my role model. Children are not looking at you as doing something wrong. Children don't know that you eating a bag of cookies is wrong. They're just thinking, mommy eats a bag of cookies when she's upset. That's what we do. And this is what's going to stem to adulthood. So these behaviors that you display will affect children. So this is why we want to unlearn the behavior, because it's going to help the people around us. So ways to help us stop. So in order to stop emotional eating, you have to find other ways to fulfill yourself emotionally. It's what you have to do. Food should not be a god. Food is not our master. Food is there to keep us living, but food is not master over us. You need to find alternatives to food that you can turn to for emotional fulfillment. So if you're depressed or lonely, speak to someone, phone someone, have a conversation with someone that makes you laugh or somebody that understands your problem. Sometimes you're so upset with something or an issue, then you speak to a close friend and you go, I'm so glad I got that off my chest. You didn't even have to touch a biscuit. You was just happy to get it off your chest. Plan a weekend away. If you know me, you know I'm either at a spa or a lodge. Anything where I can just shut off from the internet, from the world, from stress. That is my release. It doesn't have to be food. It just has to be you taking yourself away from the problem, because the food doesn't take you away from the problem. Coming home from a bad day at work and sitting on the sofa with a bag of crisps doesn't mean that tomorrow the stress is going to be gone. But if you went to a spa, the stress is gone because you've taken yourself out of the situation. If you're exhausted, treat yourself. Have a bath, light some candles. Who's ever had a bath and before you know it, an hour and a half's gone and you're just like, I needed that. I feel better. You know, your husband runs you a bath and he knows that a bath's going to sort it out. She needs a bath. Or you run your husband a bath because you know he needs a bath. He needs to de-stress. If you're bored, don't eat. If you're not hungry, don't eat. If you're bored, read a good book, watch a comedy. Everybody loves to laugh. Laugh is medicine. Do something that you enjoy doing, whatever your hobby is, crocheting, painting, sport, whatever your hobby is, do something, because what tends to happen, us women just seem to think that our life revolves around our children and everything we do is for our children. On the weekend, where are the children going? What are the children doing? Do something for you. If you want to play tennis, go and play tennis. Whatever it is you want to do, go and do it. So these are the different ways that you need to now start looking to instead of food, because whether you're with me just for an 8-week plan, whether you're with me for 18 months, whatever time frame you're with me, these educational libraries stay with you for life. And this is what I want to start incorporating into you, is lifelong habits. Even when you're at maintenance, I want you to start realizing that life can be lived and food doesn't have to be our master.